Moin Moin and welcome to Ralfs Foto-Bude. Today I want to show you a new DSLR from Sony. It's not exactly a DSLR, it's a SLT and it's called Alpha-77 Mark II or only 2, Alpha-77 II, that's the name of the camera. So what's the difference between a DSLR and an SLT of Sony? SLT means single lens translucent, and the reason why this is the name is because there is a mirror in the camera, but the mirror is fixed, so the mirror doesn't move when you release a picture. I can show you how this works. You see here is the mirror, and when I press the button, the shutter button, you see the mirror won't go up, the mirror stays exactly at the position. There's only the shutter release and the sensor behind the fixed mirror which works, but the mirror is fixed. If you compare this to a standard DSLR, like here the Pentax K3. The Pentax K3 has also the mirror. Here is the mirror. It's a little bit difficult to see, but you see here at this point there's the mirror, and when I press the release button you see that the mirror goes up and down. So that's the main difference between these two systems, the SLT, single lens translucent system, and the regular DSLR camera. But what does this mean for the camera itself? First of all, with a normal camera you have an optical viewfinder. With the SLT of Sony you have an electronic viewfinder. The reason is because the mirror lets the most light through the sensor and doesn't reflect, or does reflect only a little part of the light, and this wouldn't be enough to make an optical viewfinder, so you have the electronic viewfinder. The good thing of the electronic viewfinder, you get all informations in the viewfinder. You get all the camera settings in the viewfinder. You have a lever meter in the viewfinder. You can go in the menu in the viewfinder and change every setting in the menu. So even if the sun is very bright outside and you won't see real good on the screen on the monitor, you can do this in the electronic viewfinder. So that's a big advantage of the electronic viewfinder compared to an optical viewfinder. And also you can replay the picture in the electronic viewfinder, and you can use the magnifier if you want to make a manual focusing. That's also a big advantage of the electronic viewfinder. The picture is almost as clear as an optical viewfinder because at the Sony you have 2.4 million dots in the screen, so that's a real fine picture. You won't see the single dots and you have a real clear picture. And another advantage is if you work in low light situations, when you see through an optical viewfinder also the same light which is outside, so low light, you have an amplifier, you get a better signal in the electronic viewfinder, and so you get not a real good, but you get a better picture when the scene is a little bit more dark than with an optical viewfinder. It's a little bit grainy than the picture, but you will see the scene. You can actually see every part of the scene, and you can focus very perfect and very accurate on the point. So this is the main difference between the SLT and a DSLR. And another point is the autofocus system. Usually you have the face detection autofocus, and when the light goes to the mirror, you have a second mirror behind the main mirror. You can try to see this here. If you move up the mirror, there behind the mirror is a second mirror. It's a help mirror, and this mirror reflects the light to the autofocus system, which is in the bottom of the camera. The problem is, when you make a picture, the mirror goes up, and so the autofocus system can't work anymore, because no mirror, no picture, and no work for the autofocus system. So each time when you press the button and the mirror goes up, you will have no contact to the autofocus system, and also if you make a movie, the mirror goes up, and so there's no work for the face detection autofocus system. You can only work with a contrast autofocus system when you make a movie with a normal DSLR camera. With a Sony, the mirror stays in position, and so all the time, doesn't matter if you make a movie, doesn't matter if you make a picture, the autofocus system can work. So the whole time, even if you make serial pictures and videos, the autofocus system works in face detection mode, and that's a real good thing because the face detection is very fast and it's very accurate. So that's a big advantage of the Sony SLT cameras. The face detection works all the time, even if you make videos, and so you can make real good videos and the focus follows the scene very good. So that's the next big advantage of the SLT system. One point to the former model of the Alpha 77 is the amount of autofocus fields. At the A77 Mark II, we have 79 autofocus fields. I can show you later how they are in the picture, and you will see that they almost cover almost the whole field. So that's a real good thing because you can adjust it very clear and very perfect. 79 autofocus fields, that is really a lot. Coming to the main points of the camera, as I said before, we have the electronic viewfinder and we have the monitor on the back side, and you can turn the monitor like this. You can turn the monitor like this, you can move it up like this, and also you can use it for a selfie function. Selfie function with this camera means not really for the selfies like this, but if you want to make movies and you don't have a second person who takes the control of the camera, then you can make the control by yourself and just viewing into the monitor, and I think that's a real good and a real nice thing, because when you hold the camera and you look into the camera, you can control yourself, and the eye is absolutely in the middle of the lens. So I think that's a real nice thing, the selfie monitor. Let's have a look for the different functions and buttons here on the Alpha 77 Mark II. On the left top side we have the program dial, and if you want to change the program you have to press the button in the middle to release the dial. If you don't press the button, the dial is fixed. If you press the button you have the different settings: PASM, program, aperture, shutter, and manual mode. Then you have the 1, 2, 3 individual settings. You have the movie mode, then you have the fast mode, 12 pictures per second. You have the panorama function, then you have the scene mode with the different scene programs, and you have full automatic mode where the camera makes all the settings by herself. You don't have to care about anything. On the right side of the camera we have the small monitor here on top where you get the most important information of the camera settings. We have the on-off switch, we have the different settings: self-timer, serial mode or single picture, white balance, correction button and ISO setting, and then we can just use the light to light up the display in the darkness. On-off switch, as I said before, and here at the grip we have the front dial to change the different settings. Going to the back side of the camera, here we have the menu button, then we have the movie button, AEL, auto exposure lock, AF/MF button, Then we have a 4-dial button with a small joystick here in the middle. You can use the joystick to navigate. The FN button, display, the magnifying button, replay, and C for custom settings. So these are the different options you have. On the front side of the camera, we have a small dial where you can change between the different autofocus settings. You can start with S, single, then you go to A, automatic, where the camera decides by herself if it takes the single autofocus or the continuous autofocus. You can also set this point A in the menu to DMF, direct manual focus. Then you have C for continuous and MF for manual focus. If you remember, on the back side we have also the button to change between AF and MF, and that's real nice because if you work like in the autofocus mode and want to change for one picture just in the manual focus mode, just press the button and you're in the manual focus mode. And versa-wise, if you're in the manual mode and want to go for a short time in the autofocus mode, just press the button and you can go into the autofocus mode. So that's very easy and very nice to change between the different settings and to change. Here you can see it. If I press, I'm now in autofocus single, and if I press the button, I'm in manual focus, and so this works also vice versa. So that's the reason why we have a dial at the front and a button at the back side. One very important thing, that's the function button. So if you press the function button, you get a quick menu where you have 12 different settings. You can set up these settings also in the menu, so you can decide by yourself which of these 12 settings you want to see, or which 12 settings you want to see. It's very easy to change between the different settings. Just go with the joystick to the point you want to go, and then turn the front dial to change the setting. Now we are at the ISO setting, turn the front dial, and you see you have the scale here, and we can go down to the lowest ISO value, and the lowest ISO value at the 77 is ISO 50, so that's low ISO, and the standard ISO setting of the camera is ISO 100, and then it goes up to ISO 25,600. That's the highest ISO setting. And you also have the different ISO auto settings. So that's very easy to change between the settings. Here, just press the FN button, go to the point you want to go, and then make the change. If you want to change here the drive mode, just go to the drive mode, turn the front dial, and you have the different drive mode settings. If you're not sure which different settings you have, very easy, just press the center button of the joystick, and then you have the different settings here, and you can change also with the joystick the different settings. One thing you should know if you work with the Sony camera and work with this menu, all the time when you have a small arrow here at the left or at the right side of one of these points here, you can use the joystick to switch between different settings. If you go like to the self timer, now we have 2-second self timers, and the small arrow says go to the left, and then we have 10-second self timer. So always when you hear small arrows, you can choose between different settings with the joystick toggling to the left or the right side. There's also the possibility that there are more than 2 options. Then we have here like 3, no, it's more, I think 7 options you have at the bracketing function, which you can choose from. Yes, and so this works with the FN button. Another way to change the settings, or to quick change the settings, if you press the display button and you go into this menu here, you will see also the most important settings of the camera here on the display. And if you press now the FN button, exactly the same than before, you will go to the different points of the camera with the joystick, and if you want to change the setting, just turn the front dial and you can change the setting very fast. So that's another way to set the different settings. I would love to see a touchscreen here at this point, but again, as you can imagine, Sony doesn't have a touchscreen. So you have to do it with the joystick. You've seen before, when I press the display button, you get into the different display settings, and this you can set up also in the menu which display settings you want to have. If you don't want to have like this, and you only want to have this and the level meter, you can set up this very easy in the menu. I will show you later how this will works in the menu. Okay, so and the other point, if you want to change ISO, white balance, exactly the same, press the button and then you can turn the front dial and change the setting of the value, and this works also for this drive mode. This works also for the white balance. Only press the button and then turn the front dial and you can make the different settings. In some of the functions works also with the back dial, so you can just try to use the back or the front dial. It changed a little bit. It's not very, it's not at every button, it's not exactly the same. So you should try which one works. Here works also the back button and the front button both. Okay, so these are the main buttons and dials of the camera. Let's have a look at the right side. Here is the SD card. We have only one SD card, and on the other side we have the connections for the different parts. We have the flash and remote control, which goes in here. Then we have the DC in for the power connection, that's here. Then we have the microphone connector here, where you can put an external microphone for videos. And then we have the HDMI and the multi-connector here. What do you see? What do you miss? Yes, correct, a headphone connector. You have the microphone connector, that's really good for a video and very important for high quality video. But the thing you will miss is the headphone connector. I don't know why Sony didn't put a headphone connector in the camera. I know you can use a workaround over the HDMI output or over the multi-output, because there you can connect also a headphone, but it's not directly to the camera. You need to have an external monitor and an external adapter to use a headphone, so it's not the easy way. Just put in the plug of the headphone and that's it, like you do it for the microphone. But it's okay, and the most important thing is to have a direct microphone input. So let's have a look to the menu. Press the menu button and then you will see we have the same menu like in the other Sony cameras. So let's have a quick look for the different settings. We have the image size, 24 megapixel. It's a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor, so that's the highest resolution. Then you have the aspect ratio, where you can change from 3:2 to 16:9. Image quality, for sure you have RAW and JPEG. We have 3 different JPEG settings, standard, fine, extra fine, and we have 2 settings, RAW, RAW or RAW plus JPEG. Then if you want to change between the over menus, just turn the back dial and you're in the next one menu. Here we have the file format, and yes, you can only change between AVC, HD and MP4. There's no 4K option here. I'm so sorry for that. I would love to see the 4K option for video here, but no, they don't have the 4K option. And another thing, you may recognize my review of the Sony RX100 Mark III. And there I showed you that they have the XAVCS option for videos. And this is a real nice format because you have up to 50 megabits per second, so that's that's lots higher than the AVC HD, which goes up to 28 megabits per second. So that's almost the double. And I would love to see this format also here at the A77, but no, they don't have it. They only have AVC HD and MP4. They don't have the XAVCS format. I wonder, because when the RX100 Mark III has this format, I would think that the big one has also this format, but they don't have it. So yes, that's it, and you only can use the AVC HD, and for sure you have the 50p option, and if you go to NTSC format, then you have the 60p options. Okay, you have the drive mode, what I showed you before. You have the single shooting, you have the continuous shooting in 2 speeds, high and low, and you have the different self-timers and bracketing functions. Next point in the menu, flash mode, flash compensation, flash control, power ratio, you have the red eye reduction, AFA setup, what I said before. You can choose if you want to have the AFA and the AFA mode, where the camera decides by herself between autofocus continuous and autofocus single, or you can set the point to DMF, that's the direct manual focus, where you use first the autofocus and then you can go to the manual focus, so that's the DMF mode. Focus area for the flexible spot or for the different settings. Here we start with the white area, the zone area, then the center and the flexible spot, and you may recognize that you cannot choose between different sizes of the flexible spot. Usually at the Alpha 6000 you can change between the different sizes. The reason is here because you have single points which you can set. You don't have the contrast autofocus where you almost have the whole area as a focus field, but here you have only certain points. But you have another option, and that's the expanded expanded flexible spot. And I show you what this means. If you use the expanded flexible spot, you have not only one spot. I'll change the display so it's a little bit easier to see in this display. So you don't have only one spot, but you have 9 spots, or not 9, sorry, 8 spots around the center spot. So they help to autofocus a little bit better, and they help to get the right autofocus point. So if the center point is not perfect for autofocusing, the help points out, the 8 points around, can give you a little bit better autofocus result. So these are the settings here. The focus area, as I said before, you have the expanded flexible spot. If you go to the normal flexible spot, you will see we have here the single spot, and as I said before, we have 79, 5 here, 7 here in 3 rows, 9 in the middle, and again 7 and 5. So these are 79 focus points. Next one is the AF drive speed, AF track duration, exposure compensation. So these are the standard settings. You can do ISO mode. The metering mode again is multi-center or spot metering. Oops. Then we go to the white balance. In the white balance we have a lot of different settings, starting with the auto white balance, sun, shade, clouds, and so on and so on. And also you can make the individual setting with the Kelvin value. That's also possible. So you have a lot of different settings for the white balance. Okay, DRO on auto HDR. DRO is the dynamic range optimization and HDR. These are two modes where it can increase or decrease the dynamic range of the camera. Creative style. The creative style, usually I would call it a picture style, because in the creative style you can change between the different color settings from standard, vivid, neutral, clear, and so on, and then you have different settings, portrait and landscape for sure, and also the black and white option, and you have individual settings where you can customize the colors by yourself. So that's the creative style. And the next point is the picture effect. And the picture effect, I would say these are fun filters. Like fun filters, you have the toy camera, pop color, polarization, and so on. You have different settings. And again, you will see here the small arrows to the left and to the right, where you can individualize or change between the different settings at this point. Again, what I said before. So watch out for the small arrows in the left menu area. Next point, focus magnifier. When you want to make the manual focus, you can use this button here to magnify the focus area, long exposure noise reduction, high ISO noise reduction. Then you have the smile and face detection, soft skin effect, auto object framing, steady shot. You can choose between steady shot for photo and steady shot for film. Talking about the steady shot, Sony calls the steady shot the image stabilizer, and the image stabilizer with Sony camera, it's always in the camera. So the stabilizer works in the camera, so the sensor works against the shakings of your hand, and there is no stabilizer in the lens. Canon and Nikon uses the opposite way. They have the stabilizer in the lens and they have a fixed sensor. And I showed you before the Pentax K3, that's this one. They use also the stabilizer in the camera where the sensor moves. So you have here the different settings for film and for photos. Next point is the auto slow shot, audio recording, audio out time, wind noise reduction, and memory. Memory, that's the point where you can set up the 3 different settings which you can choose here on the top dial, on the program dial. You make all the settings, you make the program mode, you make the ISO setting, and so on and so on. You make all the settings you want, and then you go to the memory, press the center button, and you can choose between 1, 2, and 3, and then you can save the values to one of these settings. And if you do so, just turn the dial and you will see you have the settings here. I usually do this for my 3 favorite settings. That's landscape, that's portrait, and that's black and white. So these are usually on my 3 options for the individual settings. Next point is the setup menu. You have different settings here. I don't want to show you all the settings individually, but the most important setting, like the display button, what I said before, we can here choose between monitor and finder, and you will see you have the 6 different settings here. So if you don't want to see the graphic display and you don't want to see the histogram, so you can set up here your individual settings for the display in the viewfinder and in the monitor. Peaking level, if you want to focus manually, you can use the focus peaking function. You can also change the colors here, the peaking color, exposure set guide, live view display, going to the AF area points. Here you can choose between auto and 61 points for the autofocus area. Flexible spot points, you can set up all the 79 points, or you can only set up with 15 points. So if you don't want to be too flexible and you want to be a little bit faster, then you can go down to 15 points. Wide AF area display, zoom settings, optical or electronical zoom, eye start, autofocus, viewfinder and monitor change automatically. We have here the eye control, release without lens. That's what I have to set when I want to show you the fixed mirror. Priority setup. Here you can set the camera to autofocus priority or to release priority. So if you want autofocus priority, the camera autofocus on the scene, and only when the autofocus is perfect, then the camera releases. That's usually for autofocus single and for portraits and stuff like this. If you make sports or fast moving subjects, it's better to go to the release priority, because sometimes the camera won't fix the autofocus perfect on the point, and then it's more important to get the picture even if it's a little bit unsharp, but to lose the picture because the camera cannot autofocus. So in this point, if you work in sports or fast moving subjects and you want to get the picture even if it's a little bit unsharp, then please set the priority setup to release. Balanced. Okay, the camera does it by herself. You have to trust to the camera if you use balanced. Autofocus with shutter, steady shot with shutter, front curtain, exposure compensation, bracketing order. If you use the bracketing function, you can set up the bracketing order. And now we have the face registration, lens compensation, where the camera makes the compensation of the different lens errors. And here we have the custom key and the function menu. Starting with the function menu, here we have the 6 upper functions and we have the 6 lower functions. And as I said before, you can individualize this, and so you can individualize the quick menu function when you press the FN button. Custom key settings. These are the different settings. C button here, the center button, the joystick, AEL button here, sorry, AF/MF button here. The magnifying button is this one, ISO button, and the different drive mode buttons here on top of the camera. So you can customize almost every button at the camera and customize the whole setting of the camera by yourself. Next point is the dial setup for the different dials. You can choose between f-stop and shutter speed at the front or at the back side. Movie button always or only if you are in the movie mode, and dial lock. Okay, coming to the next point, and that's the Wi-Fi point. You can send the picture smartphone, computer, viewed on a TV, control with a smartphone, and here you have the different Wi-Fi settings. And if you know the other menus, like the one of the RX100 Mark III or the Alpha 6000, you will recognize that there's one point missing, and that's the point for the applications. Yes, you can't use the Sony apps here on this camera. There's no point where you can download the applications and use them in the Alpha 77. I don't know why, but yes, there's no option to use apps here on the Alpha 77. Then you have the replay mode, the difference, and then you have the setups, the standard setup like monitor brightness, viewfinder, volume, audio signals, and so on and so on. And here again we have the setting for PAL or NTSC, PAL the European television norm, and NTSC the American television norm. If you go here to NTSC, you will find as fastest video speed 60p in your menu. And okay, you have the different HDMI settings and so on, USB settings, time, date, and so on. So these are the usual settings you have. One important point is when you use here on the top dial the panorama mode. Only the Sony SLT has the panorama mode. Normal DSLRs don't have the panorama mode. If you use the panorama mode, usually the camera starts with this direction. So it works like this. You look through the viewfinder then you find your start point, and then you move slowly in the direction, and as a result you will get the panorama picture here of my office. If you want to get better quality, then you turn the dial in this direction. Now you will say, I don't want to make a panorama from top to the bottom. No, but please turn the camera in this direction, and then you make the panorama in this direction. Okay, I'm too fast or too slow, doesn't matter now. But if you use the camera for the panorama function in this direction, you get a higher resolution in your panorama. So that's very important. If you make landscape and you want to get a real high resolution, then please turn the dial and make the panorama function in this direction. And when we are here at the different settings, here is the fastest drive mode, that's 12 pictures per second. And how does this sound? It sounds like, oh yes, I'm in the right mode, hope so. I'll find the autofocus. Usually it doesn't stop, but I have a very slow SD card. So after like 6, 7 or 8 pictures, the camera stops because my SD card is too slow. If you want to take 12 pictures in serial mode continuously, you have to use a really fast SD card, 45 megabit per second minimum, better 90 megabits per second. That's what I would suggest if you want to make the fastest serial mode for a long time for a continuous shooting. Scene modes. If you go here to the scene modes, you can set up the different scene modes with the front dial. You see we have here the different modes, which shows here in the pictogram on the left top corner of the display. If you don't know which symbol what means, just go to the menu, and then you will find here in the menu, I have to look where it is, just give me a second. We have the scene selection here, and if you go to the scene selection, you will see the scene selection here, and you will get a small text which helps you to find the perfect scene, like here, portrait. Okay, if you're in the movie mode, you have the option to change the different programs, but it's not possible to make it here on the dial, because you have to go to the movie mode, so the PASM options are gone here, but you can change in the menu. Just press the menu button, and after the scene selection, one step down you have the movie, and here you have the different options: program mode, aperture priority, shutter priority, or manual exposure. So that's the difference, the different settings in the movie mode. So going back to the program mode, and here we're now in program mode. What else can I show you? I can show you that the camera has a built-in flash. Some of the professional cameras doesn't have the built-in flash. I think it's real nice to have the built-in flash, because you can remote control there the bigger flash, and for sure you have also here the flash shoe where you can put in a external flash. Talking about the picture quality, 24 megapixel on an APS-C sensor. In my opinion, the picture quality is real good. The pictures are real clear and very sharp. You have a real good contrast. The colors are really good. It's up to you to compare it by yourself, because on my Flickr account I have all the test pictures in the different ISO settings in full JPEG resolution, so you can compare this to other cameras by yourself, and you will see that the noise is, I would say, up to 800, ISO 800, but for sure up to ISO 400. The noise is almost not visible. So there's, in my opinion, the noise control of the camera is very good. And I would go up to ISO 3200. That would be my highest ISO setting when I work with this camera, because also in ISO 3200 the picture quality is still good, and the noise is on a level which is absolutely okay for me, which is not too high. So picture quality of the camera is absolutely in the range of the other company cameras. The Alpha 77 Mark II is in the class of the Canon 70D, the Nikon D7100, and, which I showed you before, the Pentax K3. All these cameras are APS-C cameras with 24 megapixel sensor, or like the Canon 70D with 20 megapixel sensors. Picture quality between the cameras, I think there is some difference, but it's not the big difference. One advantage of the 77 and the K3 from Pentax, the body is sealed against water, not you cannot go diving, but against rain and stuff like this, and also against dust. So that's an advantage of the Sony and the Pentax. You have grip, an extra grip for the camera for the portrait mode, with the most important, always the most important must with the same buttons here which you have on top. You also have on the extra grip for the portrait mode. You can put in two extra batteries in the in this one. So yes, if you work professional, I would suggest to buy the extra grip, because the camera is a little bit better in the hand. If you have big hands like me, I think it's really good, but I feel more comfortable if I have a little bit more in my hand, a little bit more grip, and if I have a portrait grip, because I can change a little bit easier and work a little bit faster than working like this. For me, it's a little bit more comfortable to use this extra grip. The work with the camera, in my opinion, is very good, because you have the two dials for the most important settings like ISO, white balance, and the correction. You have the direct buttons here on top of the camera, which you can reach very fast. You have the dial here, the joystick here on the back side of the camera to work very fast. So in my opinion, it's a real nice camera. It's a real good package you get, with a real good picture quality, crisp, sharp pictures, very detailed pictures, especially in the low ISO settings. So yes, I like this camera very much, and I think it's very good that we have beside the three big companies, Canon, Nikon, Pentax, we have another company which is had a little bit other philosophy with the SLT technique, and yeah, so I like this very much, and I like the Alpha 77 very much in the APS-C area. That's it for today. I hope it helped you a little bit to understand the A77 Mark II. And if you want to make a decision to buy the camera, I hope it helps you also a little bit to understand what the cameras offer and which options you get with this camera. If you like my video presentation or my review, please give me a like, subscribe to my channel. And if you want to support me, I would love to see you when you buy the camera over a Amazon link, which I had under my video, because then you support me and support my work here at the Ralfs Foto-Bude. Thank you for watching me. Thank you maybe for supporting me. And as always, I say thank you and bye-bye and moin moin.